Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Hive. Welcome to Real Estate Cafe at the Hive. I'm David Grossman, and this is Jerry Hogenhout. He is my business partner. I think I can call him that. We've been working together. This is actually our first real estate cafe here in Wasaga Beach. But if you can believe it, pre-COVID, we did this on a weekly basis. It was not a breakfast event. It was actually an evening networking with live music. That was a weekly thing that we did in Toronto. And then the world changed, but we try and take what's good. So what do we have now? First of all, I don't think I'm certain I would not be in Wasaga Beach were it not for COVID, because Wasaga showed me that I could operate my mortgage business from anywhere. Um, you don't have to be, immediately facing your client. So that gave me the opportunity to move to the town of Wasaga Beach. My wife Debbie and I, we've been here now for 3.5 years with our daughter, and we've been having a great time meeting people, playing live music. I'm here Saturday nights with a different feature musician and other acts all the time, and we've been having a lot of fun. The Hive has been great supporting live music, but I was doing that even before start at Boston Pizza and even Studs Lonigans. Yes, that's right. Something it is, I think. I don't know. I haven't been there in a year. So, but anyway, yes. So we are delighted to be doing the real estate cafe again and doing it as a breakfast. And hopefully it's something that we will be able to continue. And if you have suggestions or requests for future speakers, the of course being real estate cafe, it's all about real estate education, and our target audience is real estate professionals, real estate investors, and enthusiasts. So anybody who's interested and wants to learn is welcome to be here. So Jerry is an accountant, and he's a CPA, and he's going to be talking to you today about structuring your real estate deals, how to do that from a tax standpoint. And he's also going to be talking about personal real estate corps. I'm going to be speaking about mortgages on farms and mortgages on leased land properties, the two subjects that you are probably least likely to hear a mortgage broker speak about. And I'll talk more about that later. But first, we're going to give Jerry the floor. We also have online with us is a lawyer named Jordan Green, who has helped me. I do invest. My wife and I invest from time to time in private mortgages. And Jordan is online to help support my talk. And we do like things to be interactive, so feel free to raise your hand, ask a question. If you're online, you can type in your question. And without further ado, I give you Jerry Hogenhout.
Yeah, thank you. Nice little recollection of our days gone by of the real estate cafe back in Toronto. We used to have a lot of fun. We had little musicians coming in, and it was kind of fun. And you're right, COVID happened, and boy, it changed your life. It changed my life too, for the same reason. I'm old-fashioned. I like face-to-face meetings, and next thing you know, it's like you can't meet clients. And oh, what's this Zoom thing? Oh, hey, this is pretty cool. So it's changed my life too. And the ability to work remotely is really cool. Certainly, as I age a little more, my goal would be to spend a little more time in the sunny south, but work down there. So now I have that opportunity. So anyway, thanks, David, for reigniting this thing. So really appreciate these opportunities. I'm somebody who really enjoys just giving information, education, trying to get people to better understand this crazy tax system we live in, and hopefully save taxes. So, as David said, I'm going to talk about tax structuring in general, tax structuring your real estate deals, these preps, personal real estate corps. And I'll start with that. I'll start with the preps because that kind of then leads into the tax structuring. So I don't know if you real estate agents know that. Who's all real estate agents here? One, two, we got a lot of real estate agents. Super. You were given a gift, huge gift. I don't know if you realize it. And I'm surprised that a lot of real estate agents really don't fully understand the benefits. And I'm just finding many real estate agents that have preps are not utilizing them to the max. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And even if you're not a real estate agent, everything I'm talking about relates to not just real estate agents, it relates to anybody with a corporation. A PREC is nothing more than a normal corporation, nothing more. There is no specific rules or regulations about a PREC other than the real estate agent has to own 100% of the voting shares. That's it. So I've had real estate agents when these preps came out. When was it? August 2020. You know, oh, I should set up a PREC. And I said, oh, well, you already have a corporation, so let's just use it. So again, a PREC is not something special other than the real estate agent owns 100% of the voting shares. And so the real benefit is just the fact that before PRECs, all these realtors were operating as what we call a proprietorship. And in very simple terms, gross sales minus expenses equals net income. Very simple. So net income goes on your personal tax return. And to try to simplify things, your personal tax return really has four tax brackets. Keep it simple. 20%, 30%, 40%, and 50%. And they go in $50,000 increments. So 0 to 50,000 is tax bracket 1, that's 20%. Tax bracket 2 is 50 to 100, that's 30%. Tax bracket 3 is 100 to 150, and that's 40%. And then if you're lucky enough to make over 150,000, then you are paying 50%. Okay, and that's pretty close to the real tax brackets, but it's an easy way to conceptualize. So in my world, as a tax accountant, I always look at a person and going 20%, 30%, 40%, 50% tax brackets. And I tell you, over the years, I've done a lot of real estate agents before preps, a lot more after preps. I was just appalled at how much tax real estate agent, anybody who makes a lot of money, like the closed real estate agents that were doing quite well. You know, sales minus expenses equals net income goes on the tax return, and we're paying the government obscene amounts of tax. So those tax brackets, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. The one benefit of a corporation is their tax bracket is 12%. Okay, so all right away, you can just say that there's some savings. Now, one thing you need to know, a corporation, any corporation, has two types of income. Normal business income, that's taxed at 12%, and then we have passive income, and that's taxed at 50%. So that's not good. Passive income in the real estate world, there's a few things that create passive income. In the real estate world, it's mostly mortgage interest. So if you have money in your corp and you lend it out and you receive mortgage interest, that's passive income, taxed at 50%. So we have to switch handler on that and use some strategies to avoid paying 50%. The other thing that brings up passive income is net rent income. So lots of us here are real estate investors, lots of us have rental properties. Gross rent minus expenses equals net rent income. If that goes into a corporation, if the corporation owns a building, that's taxed at 50%. So that's not good. So I'm going to explain a few things that we do to try to avoid that. The whole trick is to utilize that 12% tax rate as much as we can. Okay, we get the 12% tax rate up to $500,000. Okay, that's a lot. Once we go over 500,000, we're paying 26%. Okay, and there's other ways that we can stick hammer on that too. So the beauty of the big difference between being a proprietorship and having prep or a corporation is the ability to channel your income into this corporation. Okay, as a proprietorship, there is no separation between you and your business. You are the business. With a corporation, it's a separate legal entity, and we have a separate legal entity with favorable tax rates. So when we channel the income, so instead of going sales minus expenses equals net income and that going on your personal return, we just move that into the corp. Sales minus expenses equals net income in the corp. Then when we have to pull money out of the corp, the beauty is we get to what's called characterize the money you take out. That's very important. So when you take, so again, just picture we're taking the sales as minus expenses equals net income, taking it away from your person, and we're putting that into the corp. And when you take money out of that corp, we get to characterize it. Something we cannot do if it's a proprietorship. Sales minus expenses equals net income. It just goes on your tax return, and it depends what those tax brackets that you have. So in the corp, when that money is in the corporation, we get to take it out. We get to call it a management fee, or a wage, or a bonus, or a fee, or a dividend, or a repayment of shareholder loan, or a tax-free allowance. Okay, so those are all these tools that we have. Okay, and those tools are good. So a dividend, I really want to focus on dividends because probably 90% of the realtors that I do, we pay the realtor with a dividend. Okay, so think of it once again in the corporation, sales minus expenses equals net income inside of the corporation. And if we leave that income in the corporation, we pay 12% tax, which means we're earning 88 dollars. Okay, that's an important concept to understand. We've already paid the tax, 12%. So now we have to take the 88 cents out if we want to. Okay, so because we're taking that 88 cents out as a dividend, we have choices what it is. In this case, we're going to take it out as a dividend. We get what's called the dividend tax credit. And what the dividend tax credit is the tax system recognizing that there's already been 12% paid for it. So we get a dividend tax credit. If you have no other income on your personal tax return, you could take about a $40,000 dividend out of your corp and pay zero personal tax. Okay, got it? That's pretty cool. And you can also take out tax-free allowances for your car, for your office and home. So for example, if we take out $1,500 for your car, $1,500 for your office and home, we're taking out $3,000. It's deductible to the corp, so we reduce our taxable income in your corp. We're taking that money out. It does not hit our personal tax return as long as it's reasonable. So let's make an assumption that it's reasonable. That's $3,000 we're taking out, tax free. We take out our $40,000 dividend. Okay, so what's that add up to? $76,000. So we're pulling out 76 grand out of your corp without paying 1 penny of personal tax. And that's pretty cool. And I've been doing that for 15 years, so I think it's really cool. Okay, and now that's all available to you. Okay, and we just so now if you need to take more money out, we're just going to pay our personal tax out. So you need to take 100,000 out. Well, we basically can take 76,000 out free, and now you got to pay some tax of 24,000. But also the trick is to have your corporation pay as many of the expenses as you can. Okay, the trick is try not to have to take as much money personally. The corporation can pay your gas, your insurance, your meals reasonably. So a lot of the things that we need to do anyway, we need a car, we need a house, we need to eat. So a lot of those expenses, we try as much as we can within reason, and it has to be reasonable, to have the corporation pay those. Okay. So that's so we use a lot of dividends, and there's another big reason for dividends is and it's I'm the only one who talks about this. I don't quite understand why. And it's Canada Pension. Okay. I don't know how else to say it. The biggest ripoff out there. I don't know how else to say it. And it hit home really hard for me recently when my friend who was 64, he died. Okay. Age 18, from age 18 to age 64, my friend put in paid his Canada pension, max. And he dies at 64, no surviving spouse. He's got over $1 million in his Canada pension plan. And his son, who I know very well, says, "What's this $2,500 check we got to Canada Pension Death Benefit?" And he's like, "Hold on, my dad's been paying for his whole life. Where's the rest of it?" They stole it, literally. Okay, now I've said this. Somebody challenged me once on this, right? It was kind of cool because they're like, "Where do you come up with these numbers anyway?" So, "Yeah, in my head." "Well, what if you're wrong?" I said, "Well, I'm not wrong. I'm never wrong." They said, "Well, you might be. You need to prove this to me." So I thought, you know what? Maybe that's a pretty good exercise. Okay. So I did. And I'm going to share the results with you. Okay. So what this is how much would be in your Canada pension account. And you got to understand that if you're on a T4, if you have a job, they're taking this Canada pension off your pay. Okay. And if you're self-employed, you there's a Canada pension based on your net income. So let me back up here a bit. If you're not a corporation, if you're self-employed because of proprietorship, sales minus expenses equals net income. And let's just say your net income is $50,000. You're paying almost $8,000 in Canada pension before you pay 1 penny of income tax. Okay, that's a lot. Okay. So when you get your tax returns done, if you are a sole proprietor, and if I say to you, you owe $10,000 in tax, well, you owe 2,000 in tax, 8,000 in Canada pension. Okay, so if you incorporate, you have a choice because the money goes into the court. You pay our tax at 12%, and now we pull the money out of the court, and we can decide if it's a dividend and it would be bonus. So these are all tax structure things that we would go through with the client. Just because I don't like Canada pension doesn't mean you don't. Okay, so I'm just here to educate. I have clients who go, "Well, I'd rather pay Canada pension." Great, well, we'll pay Canada pension back. Okay. But so here's my little calculation. Canada pension started in 1966. Okay. And you have to be 18 years old. So I literally went and put every maximum CPP contribution for each year. And I did this like at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I'm sitting there putting every year in. And then I'm for Canada pension plan, their returns are great. The majority of what they invest in was $600 billion in the Canada pension plan. Like our national debt is 2 trillion. So almost like a third of our national debt. That money's in the Canada pension fund. It's a huge, huge fund. Most of it, the reason they get good returns is because mostly they invest in private equity. They don't go in the stock market. They invest in private equity, real estate. They have a lot of real estate. Where am I going with this? So anyway, I calculated all the maximum premiums from 1966, imputed an interest rate of 10% because we've actually made more than that. And I calculated a whole bunch of numbers. Okay. So if somebody, so somebody was, if they started, and I just pick some numbers. If you're born in 1948, that means you would have been 18 years old when Canada pension started. So let's just pretend we'll use this as an example.
Max amount.
No, well, no, but hold on, you have to put, assuming you've earned so much, you're going to put in the maximum Canada pension. What do you mean?
You're not going to earn the max earnings for CPP at 18.
Well, the max,
people at 18
the max at age 18 was $158.40.
No, I mean the max year that you maxed out your CPP.
Oh, I realize, but for $158, that probably back then, I don't even know what the pension earnings were, but it was probably attainable. No, listen, I'm just making up an example that if somebody, not making up, I'm just stating, if somebody paid the maximum Canada pension, my friend did, at age 18. Okay, so if that happened and we take a 10% average, what they would have returned, today we have $1,690,000.
Thank you, compound interest.
Compound interest. Now, in this particular example, this person, if born in 1948, would be 76 years old. So they would have collected some kind of pension from age 65. So let's take that off. $1,314. That's a lot of money. Okay, and that money has been put into your very own kind of pension account. Everybody has their very own pension account. So if all, what I'm trying to say is if all these numbers were true, and they're not far-fetched, the person has $1.3 million. Okay, it's criminal. That's your money. So another way to think of it, if you're 65, you would have accumulated max, you would have $1.345 million there, which will say 1.5 million. And you start to collect at 65. And they go, here's your $1,000 a month. We'll give you $12,000. Okay, well, hold on. You got 1.5 million over here. You're making 10%. You just made 150,000 on the money. Give me 12,000. And you're going to do the same thing next year, and next year, and next year, and next year. All right? It's a rip-off. It's your money. Okay, what do you do about it? Okay, well, I know what I do. I give myself dividends. So I don't pay Canada pension, but Canada pension is structured that what you get paid out of it is dependent on what you put into it. So if you put nothing in or stop paying, you're gonna, if you never put anything in it, you're not gonna get anything out of it. If you stop paying, you're gonna get a reduced Canada pension. So I always say with my clients, the ones who agree with me, because not everybody agrees with me, if you do agree with that, take the same amount of money and put it into an investment account. And what we do with clients, I'm a gold and silver dealer, so we have an investment company. So we do a lot of real estate investments, but I'm also a gold and silver dealer. And so we take silver. So your maximum contribution is whatever, now almost $8,000. We basically say, look, take 500, 600, 700. Okay, whatever, it's basically the same amount that we'd be putting into your Canada pension. Let's put it into our silver account and buy bullion. And those that we do that for, we maximum is 3,000. So we put the money in an account. Once it hits 3,000, we buy bullion and we deliver it to your door. And that's pretty cool. And that account, we can put any amount of money. Realtors, you get a big sale, get a big check. You can put more money into that bullion account. So we're pretty bullish on the metals. Okay. Not, in my opinion, not so much gold, but certainly silver. Gold really doesn't have the economic use that silver does. So we see silver has gone up a lot in the last year, and I think it will continue to go up. So anyway, that's my little CPP rant, which again, once you start doing these numbers, it's criminal. Anyway, so once again, what I'm trying to say is when that income goes into the corporation, we have options. And that's the key. So we would have discussions of how we're going to remunerate you. People always ask me what the pot, where should I buy the car, in the corporation or in the personal? I prefer you buy the car personally, and then we give you a tax-free car allowance from the corp for yourself personally. Okay, so we usually that allowance is usually a bit higher than it probably should be. Okay, we like playing in the gray, I call it. And what I mean by that is our Bible, or what we're coming with our rule book is the Income Tax Act. And the Income Tax Act happened was written black and white, very clear to someone with me. We spent 10 years in the tax department at Deloitte Touche, so that was my Bible. I was reading that thing all the time. So the half of it, the reading in black and white, very clearly we cannot do. The other half is written in gray. So it's like, can we do this? Can we do that? For example, you're a realtor. You're going on holidays to Florida. Why don't you go down there and grab some business cards? Make your trip tax deductible. Let your corporation pay your trip to Florida. That's playing in the gray. We're not breaking any rules. We're not doing anything illegal. Okay, I'm not saying they would accept it in an audit. Okay, so here's what happens in the tax system. So when we file a tax return, when I hit send from my computer, it goes into their computer. So no human being has touched it on your end. Okay, so you take a trip to Florida, you go, Jerry, deduct this. I was looking at some real estate while I was laying in the sun. I'm on your side, no problem. Let's go. All right. Get some documentation, get some business cards from somebody down there. So we put that expense in and we file your tax return. We hit send. So now it goes to the CRA computers. Now, the CRA computers will spit out a notice of assessment. It has a date on it. The notice of assessment does not mean they have accepted what we filed. It means they have received what we filed. Big difference. Okay, so we e-file it, we send it to their computer, no human being on their end has touched it, spits out a notice of assessment, we look at that date. They have 3 years from that date to challenge anything on that tax return. So if they did challenge your trip to Florida, we're going to try to defend that. And when we deal with CRA, 7 out of 10 are reasonable. We might win that argument. 3 out of 10, well, we're getting a problem. So what happens? They say, no, we're not going to let you, you got that trip. There's a reassessment. There's the tax you would have paid anyway if you didn't do it. A little bit of interest, nothing major. Okay, so in my world, it's worth playing in the gray within reason. And what I always do with clients is I find out what their appetite is to play in the gray. It's not me going to the edge of the cliff on your behalf. How do you feel? Where do you want to go here? Do you want to, I actually have clients who go, nah, I don't do anything, I'll pay my taxes. I don't want any problems this year. No problem. Pay your taxes. Okay, my world, I'm on the edge of the cliff. So it's because, we pay a lot of tax. This is an insane system. Paying up to 54% of our income in tax, 13% on everything we consume. We'll fill your car with gas and we'll go taxes, and this is nuts. It's crazy. Okay? And it's getting worse. It will not get better. We just got hit with a capital gains increase. Horrible. And the other thing about that nobody talks about, except me, is the impact that has on your estate. Okay, in our company, we do a lot of financial planning, we do a lot of estate planning. So now this capital gains exemption is gone. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means there's more tax to pay either when you sell your asset in your lifetime, or we want all our assets to go to our loved ones. So if we have all these assets and we don't sell them and we die, go through our estate, we have a bigger tax bill. Okay, I'm sorry, I've done over 500 final death tax returns. And probably half of them we've sent half of the money to CRA. That's criminal. And when I see these things, I'm like, well, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? Nobody did anything. Okay, and the problem, the biggest culprit is RSPs. I hate it. Okay, use your practice as the vehicle to fund your retirement. Okay, the reason I hate RSPs is because they're just sold to people without any thought or discussion about what happens at the end. Okay, I have no problem with RSP back to your 20, 30, 40, 50. If you're in a 50% tax bracket, put money into the RSP. And let's get it out at 20% as soon as we can. I'm not going to leave it there until 71. So with a corporation, I've done this with a lot of realtors. He says, put your income in your corp. Don't take anything out. Nothing of your tax-free allowances, because they don't give your tax return. And start pulling down your RSP. Start taking $50,000 out each year of your RSP. We want to get the money out of those RSPs as soon as we can at 20%. Okay? Now that's a little extreme. I'm the first to admit that a bit extreme when I do my tax strategies, but again, I've just done too many tax returns that we send 50% of the money to CRA, and nobody does anything. Somebody dies. I tell them how much tax they have to pay. Oh, that's a lot of tax. That's horrible. Well, you're dealing with the debt. You're not going to go and about the amount of tax you pay. So nothing happens. Okay, and one of the biggest problems is lack of integration between your tax life and your investment life. That's the big problem of it. You can be very happy with your accountant. You can be very happy with your investment person. I can guarantee you there's a lot of holes in your financial life. things that aren't done right. Because your accountant and your investment person will collaborate. And they might talk once, but that's not, you got to integrate everything you're doing. So it's very important to integrate the tax part of your life with the investment part of your life in order to deal with the eventual estate that you're going to have to do. Yes, sir.
You got 5 minutes. Do you want to see if there's any questions?
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
take a couple of questions if there are any.
Yeah, sorry, I tend to ramble on a lot. I'll just quickly, because I know we're talking about tax structuring of your real estate investments. So it's very important to realize, again, we have proprietorships, we have corporations. If we have a proprietorship on your rental property, rental income minus expenses equals net rent income. Just like your business income, that's going to go on your personal tax return. Like either your 20%, your 30%, your 40%, or 50%. The property is owned in the corporation. Rent minus expenses equals net income. That's passive income. So if we have a lot of rental income, we're going to pay 50%. So what do? We create a second corporation, a real estate management corporation. So we take our rent minus expenses equals net rent income, and whatever that number is, we're going to, within reason, it has to be reasonable, we're going to take that number and put it into your real estate management company. Real estate management income is after income, that's at 12%. Okay, that's very important. Okay, so that's how we kind of stick handle around. We don't want to pay taxes at 50%. And if you own the property personally, that net rent income problem, 50% tax bracket. Once again, we would set up a corporation. We'll take that net rent income that you are earning and move it into a corporation as real estate management depot and pay out 12%. Are you with me on that? Okay, David's going to cut me off. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Well, here's something you said about capital gains in these states. That only applies, that doesn't apply to personal property.
No, yeah, so the question is the capital gain inclusion, does it apply to the principal residence? No. We still haven't touched the principal residence, that's right. If we keep electing you know who, seem the way they will, go after our principal residence. So I'm not going to say who I vote for, but let's not let them do that, okay? Any other questions?
I had a question from Zoom. Hi. So similar question on the capital gains. So with the new rules coming in effect, so the first 250K of the capital gains is still under the old regime of 50% inclusion, right? And then the remaining is at the higher inclusion rate. So my question is, let's say I own a property with my wife and we sell it, and we get capital gains out of that. So do each of us get that 250K kind of lower threshold, or is that 250K threshold an aggregate for the two of us combined?
Okay, so the question is, this capital gains inclusion, which went from 50% to 66.67%, applies to corporations and it applies to persons only after 250 on a person. So what I mean by that is your first 250,000 of capital gains is still at the 50% inclusion rate. So if you sell a house, you make personally, if you have a $250,000 capital gain personally, you still only use the 50% inclusion. Okay, once it gets over 250, then we do the 60. So for example, if you made 300,000, okay, the first 250 is 50% inclusion, the next 50 is 2/3 inclusion. Okay, and the question was, does whoever asked the question, do both spouses get the 250? And yes, they do. And that inclusion that will start June 25th, right, Colleen? Is that the date? June 25th. So after June 25th, that's when the 2/3 inclusion rate kicks in. Okay, so once again, it's just a problem for us in the estate planning world, because now we have a bigger tax bill at the end. And when we do all this estate planning, it's kind of cool. We create a little Excel program where we put people's assets and we make assumptions. We basically show you your financial life spreadsheet, and we change those assumptions. can say 5% during growth, 10% growth, 8% growth, different amounts of drawing. So it shows you, your financial life. And the really cool thing, I created this tax page at the end. So we put in your assets, we make assumptions, then we pick it 85, 90, 95, 100, whatever date we want to pick. And it'll show me how much tax you're going to pay. And then we can strategize around that to try to reduce it. And we can't eliminate the tax you're going to pay to your debt, but we can minimize it. And then once we have a number, there's two things we can do. One is nothing, pay the tax. Two, you insure that tax thing. That's your two options. So if you really don't like paying the tax, then one option is when we figure out, okay, well, based on everything you're doing today and everything that's going to happen in the future, at least based on your assumptions, you're going to pay 500,000 in tax. And they can go, well, if you look at an insurance policy to cover that. Well, I'm not a huge insurance guy.
Okay, I can talk about it.
You kicked me out here?
Well, we're going to see Mark take one last question.
Sure.
Go
Yeah.
ahead, last question. And then
Just on whether what time one should take one's OAS and
repeat the
CPP.
question.
Okay, the question is, when do I take old age security? When do I take Canada pension? Okay. You can take Canada pension early at age 60. You're going to get a 0.5% deduction from what you would have at 65. So you start at 60, and you're going to basically get 30% less what you get at 65. If you don't take it, you get to 65, you can not take it and get a half a point increase. So you get 30% more if you wait till 70. My general rule of thumb is if you don't need the money, don't take it. But on the other hand, people seem to be dying of early ages. So it's like my friend at 64, he worked at least, got his CPP for 4 years. So there is no right or wrong answer. It's something to be discussed with the client.
OAS back if you
Got $80,000. So if you basically earn $80,000, and again, with a corporation, we can manipulate income. We have all these tools. So if you're a corporation, you're giving somebody like me a big toolkit to try to deal with the tax issue.
My thought was to take it and you're not using it, you can invest it or you can buy silver or whatever. And that because the theory is you're going to live to be 85, whatever. You never get the money back out.
No, yes, we all build assets. We all want our wealth to go to our loved ones. That's the goal. We want to use it in our life. And what's left, we want to go to our spouse or kids. Okay, so we just got to minimize the tax. Anyway, I could go on and long. I'll be hanging around.
Thanks.
Come talk to me. David.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Jerry. All right. Yeah, you've got Jerry's cards. You should have his cards too. So as he said, he'll be around afterwards for a little bit, and feel free to reach out to him to talk to him. So I'm going to talk and take any questions for the next 20 minutes because I do believe in finishing on time. So we've got 20 minutes, which is fine. So Jordan, you still with us? In case, we'll definitely put at least. You there, Jordan?
I'm here.
Okay, great. So now why did I say before that lending on properties that are on leased land and lending on farms are the two least likely topics that you'll hear from a mortgage broker? Anyone venture to guess? Okay, in my view anyway. So the reason is simply that banks and many different prime lenders, you've heard of monoline lenders, maybe. Those are banks that deal strictly with mortgage brokers. They pay finder's fees to mortgage brokers to arrange mostly fairly straightforward mortgages on residential properties. That's how the business works. Now, mortgage brokers are still active in different areas, but they'll normally will charge broker fees if the lender's not paying a finder's fee. You're going to charge a broker's fee. And now, if you can get the mortgage directly from a bank, why would you pay a mortgage broker a finder's fee? Right, there's no point to do that. So my first message is that when it comes to farms and or leased land properties, if you can get the mortgage from a bank or from farm credit union, RBC is active in the farm space, as is Scotia, and then by all means, go for it. They work very closely with customers. In many cases, they will, provide some level of consulting. They will ask for a lot of paperwork as well, but it ultimately should be helpful. I would think if you are in farming business, to be working with a lender who understands your business. So mortgage brokers typically do not get involved in that level. But if you're not getting what you want from a bank or credit union, then you can employ the services of a mortgage broker, provide you with some kind of alternative lending solution. So first of all, a couple things. When we're talking about leased land properties, of course, we're not lending on the land because the person who's borrowing money doesn't own the land. You are borrowing money against the structure that's on the land, right? So it's not your typical mortgage. It's considered a chattel or a chattel mortgage, right? It's not your standard type of mortgage. It's a little different. And we'll ask Jordan shortly to comment on a little bit more about what that means. But that's the first thing I'll mention. And there's a PPSA involved, Personal Property Securities Act is involved. It's considered movable property. And the people who do lend on these, and again, now I'm talking about alternative lenders because I recently had somebody come to me for a mortgage on a leased land property in Innisfil. They bought this called modular home or whatever you want to call it for $200,000, and they were able to get CMHC insured financing, like 95% loan to value on this $200,000 property through RBC. Yeah, quite amazing. Quite amazing. So if you do need a referral to a good person at RBC, I can help you with that if you don't already have a contact. And they were fast because there was a very short window there for the person when they made their purchase to waive the financing condition. They had 5-day conditions, 3 days were already gone by the time it came to me. So we were able to assist by bringing in the right person for that. The other thing is you need, if you're going to be lending on this type of property as a lender, you need an assignment of the lease. That's key. And not all landowners, not all property owners will do that. And that's key because if the let's call them a tenant, is not paying the property owner or the landowner, then the landowner will put the building up for sale. And you don't want that if you've got a mortgage on it. You want to be, it's better if you can step in, pay that lease, and then take action from there. You don't want them to be on default on the lease. So that's called an assignment of the lease. That's important. Again, bank money is usually available unless you are not a strong covenant. So if you have a credit problem, or maybe you're self-employed, for example, and you can't prove income to the bank's satisfaction, then you can look at alternative source of financing. But interestingly enough, if you're familiar with the lending space, there's basically 3 different categories of lenders out there, right? You have your A lenders, who are your banks, prime lenders, these could be trust companies, credit unions. And then you have your B lenders. B lenders don't like lending on those types of properties either, both from the standpoint of, leased land, buildings on leased land, or farms. They do not like that space because if they're going to lend, they're usually they're looking at a covenant that is less than perfect, right? Maybe it's self-employed, can't prove income. Maybe there's a credit issue. They want highly marketable properties, cookie cutter properties. Farms are more complex. They don't move as quickly. They have to put them up for sale. Same thing with buildings on leased land. They're not move. I don't think they move as quickly in any event. The B lenders don't like them. So if you're getting into a mortgage with a private lender, right? A C lender is considered a private lender. You either need an exit strategy to make sure you can get out of it, or the mortgage needs to be small enough that you can service that debt, and the lender is comfortable staying in because even if you buy this place for 200,000 or 300 or whatever the number is, and you have a small mortgage at 9 or 10% or 11% rate because it's considered a little bit higher risk than a regular sort of mortgage. If it's a small mortgage, maybe you could carry it long term, but you need to know that that lender is comfortable staying in because most private lenders, they want to be in and they want to be out, right? So you want to set the borrower up for long term success. This might be a good time to turn to my friend Jordan Green. Jordan Green is a lawyer. He's based out of Richmond Hill. We've been working together a lot. Of course, nowadays it doesn't matter where your lawyer is. Everything is typically done online. People can sign remotely. So, as I said, my wife and I, Debbie, have invested in private mortgages over the years, and Jordan's always been our trusty lawyer. He's accessible and knowledgeable. So, Jordan, I assume hopefully you've been listening. I'm sure you
Yes.
have. Did you have any comments on anything I've said? Anything to add so far?
Yeah, no, so what you said is it's all right. I mean, it's a great opportunity if you're looking to invest in these things that the A lenders and the B lenders don't usually like to touch. And a lot of private lenders who aren't familiar with it won't touch it either. If there's not a mortgage broker that knows how to value these properties properly, you're better off not to do it. So, I mean, you have David who knows how to do it, and that's what you're looking at. So on a leased land property, what's interesting in what David said is that you're pretty much lending on two pieces here. It's on the modular home itself and on any value that the underlying lease has. So you would want to look at the two together. Some of the banks will only look at one, not both. I mean, you can look at it holistically and know if the borrower defaults, what's each piece worth, and will you be made whole? So, I always say whenever you're doing any type of deal, equity fixes everything. I mean, that being said, you still would probably rather do a clean deal that you're not going to be worried about that. But still, because it can take longer until you can sell something as well because they're less marketable, you just want a little bit more loan to value so that as you hold on and the interest keeps on accruing while you go through the default proceedings, you get paid. And that's sort of in the worst case scenarios.
Okay, thank you very much, Jordan. The other thing that comes to mind with what Jordan was saying is that when you're talking about a farm, many lenders, let's say a non-working farm or a hobby farm or acreage, many prime lenders are going to lend based on a single structure and perhaps 5 or 10 acres, and that's it. So if there's a lot of acreage, maybe outbuildings, many of the prime lenders will not consider that. So there is actually, I said there were no B lenders. That's not 100% true. Well, we do have access to a credit union based out of Saskatchewan that will lends it slightly above the best available bank rates, but they will consider the full amount of the land, and also they'll consider outbuildings. So, scenario, let's say where you're buying a hobby farm with acreage for, let's say, $1 million, and the bank looks at it and says, well, we're only going to lend $500,000 or $600,000 on this because we're only considering 5 or 6 acres, and or 5 to 10 acres plus no outbuildings, whereas this alternative lender maybe charges a percentage point higher, and they will go up to 80% on the total value. So yielding, letting the purchaser buy with a smaller down payment, but the rates are sustainable long term. So that's not, that's something you can sustain instead of paying 5 or 5.5. Maybe you're paying 6 or 6.5%. It's not going to kill you. So we do have access to those kinds of funds as well. Are there any questions about? Yes, Claire. Right. So what do C lenders charge? So, well, of course, it depends on a number of factors, the property itself, the loan to value, the strength of the borrower. But you're going to be paying on a first mortgage, I would say at least 8% nowadays with a private lender. And there are typically fees as well. So and the fees can vary. Could vary from 1% to 3 or 4%, depending on the deal. And the rates can be higher as well, depending on the loan to value and depending on whether it's a first or a second mortgage. So we have a number of sources. Even on farms, we have sources that are not going to ask a lot of questions if they're comfortable that the equity's there. Because there are lenders out there, alternatives, who will want to know a lot of things about the business plan and the quotas and things of that nature. But there are also private lenders who can move quickly, and if the equity's there, they'll make a loan on a reliable appraisal. Yeah. Yes, Colin?
Like private. Don't be ready, but
Yes.
what percentage you're making, and is it better to loan corporations, maybe corporation loan it to mortgage?
Okay, so good question. So I'll just repeat it so everyone can hear it, including our people online. So Pauline was asking if you are a private lender and you want to lend, what are the rates like, and how should you structure that loan? Should you lend through a corporation? So on that part of the question, I'm going to call Jerry up in a moment. But the answer to that question is it's the same question more or less that I just answered to Claire. So I mean, you can get 8, 9, 10, 11% on your money. It's on the higher end if it's a second mortgage, and it's on the lower end if it's a first mortgage. And it also really depends on the loan to value and the story, right? As a private lender, we always want to know the story. What is the exit strategy, right? Because you want to know that you're going to be able to get out. Are they planning to sell it? Are they planning to sever and sell part of the land and pay you back? Are they planning to sell the property to their kids who are going to take over the farm? Maybe there's been some unusual things happen, infestation, some bad years, drought. So you want to know that it's temporary, that there's enough equity. Personally, as a private lender, I prefer to lend on the deals that are lower loan to value and take a little bit lower rate because I like headache-free types of loans. Some private lenders, they're prepared to take on a little bit more risk. They're more actively working with their lawyers, and they don't mind because if you have to take action, you have to hire your lawyer. In one case, I had a case like that. Jordan, do you have any comments on loan to values and taking action? And then we'll ask Jerry about the how should you lend.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what I said, equity fixes everything. So as long as there's money once we sell the thing, you usually come out all right. But you have to remember that when you sell by power of sale, anyone who buys a power of sale wants a deal. So, everyone, we're all out there chopping at the bit to buy a property that the bank is selling or the lender's selling. So you got to think what you're going to sell it for when it's a power of sale. You're going to think, what are the carrying costs until you get the thing sold, and what are the real estate commissions? So the higher you go to 100% loan to value, the bigger the chance that you're going to take a haircut on the sale. So even though the person who borrowed the money still owes it to you, I mean, what's nice about a mortgage is that you sell the property and you're done with it. You don't have to chase after someone and garnish their wages or anything like that. It's just done. So usually, in a metropolitan area, you might go a higher loan to value as to what it's assessed. If it's in a rural area that's not as quick to sell, you might go lower. But as you said, David, it's all the story as what's going on and how attractive that underlying property is.
Right. When we're talking about buildings on leased land and we're talking about farms, most lenders would probably prefer to stay under 65% loan to value, whether you're in first or second position. Because those are going to take longer to sell, those types of properties. And so it's a little bit higher risk. So normally you want to stay under 65%, I would say. You still want to know something about the borrowers. Jerry, would you like to comment on whether you should lend through a corporation or how to lend? Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so mortgage interest, so for lending out mortgages, I don't have a really good answer because we're paying 50% that's passive income. We're paying 50% tax in a corporation. If we're lending mortgages personally, that interest will once again be paying to where our margin the tax brackets are 20, 30, 40, and 50. So when that money, because again, a CREC or any corporation, we're paying the 12% tax, so we're saving 88 dollars. So we're certainly saving money quicker in a corporation. And when we have excess money, we got to decide what to do with it. And another thing that we could do with it, a lot of times even though you can use your PREC as a holding company, a lot of times we will take that money out of that company, dividend it up to a holding company, even though you can use your PREC as a holding company. So if we're lending that money in a corporation, we're paying 50% tax. So it's a discussion that we have with the client when we talk about what type of investments they want to do. Because when we invest in something, we're either getting interest, capital gains, or dividends. Interest, if we earn $100, we have to put $100 in the tax return and pay our tax rate. If we invest in something that pays us dividends, if we get $100 dividend, we have to put $75 on the tax return and pay the tax rate. If it's capital gains, today it's still 50%. If we made $100, we have to put $50 on the tax return. After June 25th, we'd be putting $67 on the tax return. And the best of all is what we call return of capital. Okay, so we can earn interest, dividends, capital gains, or return of capital. Return of capital is found in real estate income trust. Real estate income trusts are a fund of apartment buildings. And I've been in this investment game for about 35 years, and I've yet to find anything better than a real estate income trust to A, protect your capital, and B, get a consistent 8 to 12% rate of return. Okay, one of my favorite investments, and this return of capital means you get the income without paying tax, zero. Okay, that's a pretty good thing. Now there is a repercussion, so everything that you receive for free reduces your adjusted cost base. So when you do sell, you're going to pay a capital gain. And we're okay with that because A, we can choose when to sell, so we can strategize. Number two, that capital gain is taxed much less than if it was just fully interest. Okay, so when we talk about mortgage interest, it's just a conversation we have to find, like, okay, when mortgage interest, you're going to pay a bit more tax on that, something because we're paying 50%. So it's just, again, I don't have a good answer what to do with that 50% tax, passive income tax that we're going to be paying in mortgage interest. So we have to factor that in to the interest rate that we want to collect.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. Thanks for the question, Colleen. And thanks all of you for your questions. We're going to wrap up now, but we will be around and we are accessible. You have our business cards. I just want to thank Jerry for co-sponsoring the event with me. Thank you, Jordan, for coming online. Thanks for the Hive for supporting our regular events and our Saturday night live music. I just want to mention in closing, as a mortgage broker, I have 20 years experience. And I used to, if you're a real estate agent, you should know I used to work out of a real estate office, a Royal LePage Your Community, for a number of years. And most of my business is working with real estate agents. So I do understand the demand of real estate agents and getting borrowers, purchasers pre-qualified and all that. So there's a page that I gave out, my preferred realtor program. You guys are all my preferred clients, whether you're realtors or not, but I have a special level of service that I offer in working with real estate agents. So there's a bit of a summary on this page. I won't get into details now, but I would love to speak with you each individually to tell you a little bit more about it and how I am accessible and to help you grow your business. So thanks very much, everybody. Thanks, Debbie, for working the front desk, my wife, Debbie. And good, right? We can give Debbie a round of applause too. Sure, why don't we? And we hope to repeat. So stay tuned for future events. Thanks for those who came out and brought friends. And we hope to see you all next time. So we will see you soon. Thank you, Nancy. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much for the time. I just wanted to say, I think most of you might have cards or information about me. Even though like I do live in Toronto and my office is in Toronto, I've been strategizing up here for Sage Beach since '95. Any reason, I love coming to Sage Beach. So if you want to have a chat, give me a call. You can gladly come up to Sage Beach. Thanks again.
Thank you, Jared.